What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the Muster Room podcast. This is part of our September 11th series that has become so well known each year that we've been doing this. This is one of the episodes that you're going to be watching or listening that's focused primarily on September 11th. And this one in particular, very, very excited about because it's also dealing with the Tunnel to Towers Foundation. And Tunnel to Towers, as many of you who are watching or listening know, a fantastic national organization that just does amazing work, not just only for our first responders, but for our military veterans as well. If you watch Fox, you've probably seen their TV commercials. You've probably heard a lot of celebrities talking on their behalf as well, just saying such great work that they've done. And a special shout out to them because many of you probably don't know this, but when Law Enforcement Officers Weekend was in its infancy, I had the honor of going to their headquarters and meeting with them in Staten Island. And they took the time for about an hour and a half to meet with us and help us build our nonprofit and give us ideas on how we can become a larger organization and help more cops. And our tagline, bringing your blood and blue, bringing your blue, wow. Our tagline, bringing your blood and blue families together, was actually formed at the Tunnel to Towers office. So big shout out to them. They always have a really special place in my heart. And with that being said, our guest today is retired FDNY, Battalion, I want to say Deputy Chief, retired FDNY Battalion Chief Jack Oehm. Jack, thank you for being on the podcast with us today. We are super stoked to have you here. Really excited to talk about Tunnel Towers, to talk about your time, your experience with the FDNY, with 9/11. We've had a few others in the past that we've had on this show. And as I said earlier, you know, our 9/11 series is so important. And we were talking before the cameras came on. So many children in particular across this country, even here in New York City, don't know much about 9/11. For us in the first responder community, obviously it's ingrained in us. You were there that day. I watched it occur from you know my desk in middle school, and now as a member of the NYPD, it's just everywhere we look, 9/11 is always there, and all the heroes that we lost that day and we continue to lose to this day. But when we hear that there's high school kids and even college kids who don't really know much about 9/11, who don't truly understand what happened that day, the bravery that occurred that day, not only with first responders but civilians, is astonishing. And it's astounding, and it's sad. It's really sad. And I think that's why it is so important to have episodes like this, to make sure that the stories never fade, to make sure that the recognition is given to those who deserve it, and to make sure that everyone understands that our world changed that day, and it'll never be the same. And the reason that we have TSA at the airports, and the reason that you can no longer, visit the pilots while they're in flight, the reason why there's such heightened security around major events now all over the country, especially here in New York City, is because of 9/11. So again, I'm so happy to have you here and to hear your stories today, and to discuss all the amazing work that Tunnel to Towers do. Because I didn't think I mentioned this earlier, but you're also a board member with Tunnel to Towers. So I don't want to steal your thunder. So with that being said, take it away. Just tell us about yourself, your time with the FDNY, and how you got involved.
So thank you for having me, Austin. It's my pleasure to be here. And you were talking about the kids not knowing about their history, and that's so true. So our foundation addressed that problem. We have made curriculum for teachers from K through 12. They can go on our website, download, take out the story of 9/11 and what happened to us and why it happened to us. And age appropriate. So if they're teaching kindergarten or if they're teaching 12th graders, they can take out material from our website and have a lesson plan and teach a half an hour lesson on 9/11 every year. So kids know. You're right. Kids are graduating college not even knowing about 9/11. They don't even get up to World War II sometimes in our history, in American history. It's a shame what our education system has become. They got to make changes, and hopefully, it happens, because history is so important, right? Because if we don't know our history, what happens? We repeat the same mistakes, and that's what we're doing.
Yeah,
We're repeating the same mistakes. So my story, 9/11, off-duty battalion chief. My battalion was in Red Hook, Brooklyn. All my 8 units responded that morning into Manhattan. Sadly, 3 out of 8 units never came home, losing 20 of my men that morning. Like I said, I was off duty. I got to my firehouse about 10 o'clock in the morning, got the gear. We were supposed to report to a staging area because they didn't want to send any more firefighters into lower Manhattan at the time. They didn't know what was happening, right? We didn't know if more planes were coming. So a couple of firemen I was with were huddling up by the apparatus floor. He said, "Chief, we're going to go to the staging area?" I said, "No, we're going to go into Manhattan. Our guys are missing. We know the guys responded. We're going to look for them." So that's what we did. We got onto a pickup truck, took the truck over the Brooklyn Bridge, got into lower Manhattan, and went to work that day. And what we simply did was we just, when a 110-story office building collapsed, it created a pile 6-7 stories high. So we had 2 piles because we had 2 110-story office buildings that collapsed, spread over 16 acres of land, and we simply climbed to the top of the pile and started digging. And one of my, I have so many bad memories of 9/11. I have some good ones too. I'll share them with you. But one of my first memories of being at the site was how quiet it was. It was eerily quiet. There was nobody screaming. It was cloudy because of all the ash and debris coming down still. It made it like a smoky atmosphere. But nobody screaming, and that struck me. And then what struck me more was the sound of our pass alarms going off. Those are our personal alert safety systems that every firefighter wears on their air tank. So when we're motionless for 30 seconds, this alarm goes into a warning, a pre-warning, and then it goes into full warning. It's like a smoke alarm going off. And you could clearly hear these pass alarms going off, and you knew the firefighters were down, and there was no way we could get to them. So that really kind of broke my heart, knowing that our guys are there, buried in steel and concrete, and there was no way we could help them. But like I said, we climbed up to the top of the pile, and we started digging for hours and hours and relieving ourselves. And about 12 hours into my day, now into the night of 9/11, the fire department just figured out we're going to work 24-hour shifts, 24 hours on, 24 hours off. And so my group was going to come back in Wednesday morning, which is the day after 9/11, 9/12, start my shift at 9 o'clock in the morning. So it was about 1 o'clock in the morning now of 9/12, and I was beat, depressed. We all were, not finding anybody to save. And I said, let me get back to the firehouse and get some sleep so I could work the next day. So I was just about ready to head down to the base, and I looked down, and marching in formation was a group of firefighters, and they're marching up to my location. And I said to myself, these are not New York City firefighters. And I said, because we don't do anything in formation. And these guys were marching proudly up, and they got up to my location. They gave me a salute. They said, "Chief, we're here to help you. What can we do for you?" I mean, at that moment, it was the lift that we all needed. It brought us our spirit back. And I told people, this is the goodness of America. I hugged the guy. I probably kissed him, being a New Yorker. I said, "How'd you get here? And where you from?" And they were, I forget the town, small town in Tennessee, eastern Tennessee. When they saw the towers get hit and they saw the first one came down, they jumped into their cars. They drove up to help us in our time of need. Yeah. And I tell people all the time, this is the goodness of America. These are the stories. This is what I witnessed my 9 months at the pile and then later on into the pit. The good people coming from all over. So like I told you, Austin, I have some bad stories, obviously, but some nice stories too. And that was the first day of some bad stories and a good story at the end of my day. And and then it was work and funerals, work the pile, work the pit, go to the firehouse, protect the city, and that was my life for 9 months.
So you tell us that you have a lot of good stories from 9/11, and all we hear, for the most part, right, are the bad ones. You know, every documentary you see on television, every TikTok video, every Instagram post, obviously the sexy, quote unquote, eye-catching, ear-grabbing information are of the bad stories. Let's talk about the good ones. What else do you got for us?
Well, I mean, the death and destruction is one thing, right? I mean, that's something, the smells and the sights that we've witnessed will never leave us. And, when I do the tours of the 9/11 Museum, it brings me right back to that day, obviously. But the good stuff that keeps me going, and one is this foundation at the Siller family, right? They took something that was so terrible, so bad. So 2,977 Americans were murdered that morning. And the Siller family turned something so terrible and made something so beautiful to honor and remember not only Stephen Siller, their brother, but all those 2,977 Americans that were killed that day. So, and being a small part of this great foundation keeps me going day in and day out. But another great story happened in December of 2001. This middle school kids, and you talked about kids before, and these kids knew their history, and this is a wonderful thing. White Nose Middle School outside of Columbia, South Carolina, knew their history. And New York City in 1865, 1866, during the Civil War, sent a fire apparatus down to Columbia, South Carolina, to help them extinguish their fires during the Civil War. Columbia is the capital of South Carolina. And it was New York City's way of helping that town, that city of Columbia. So fast forward to 9/11, we lost 343 New York City firefighters, 23 New York City police officers, 37 Port Authority police officers. Nothing you can do to bring back those beautiful lives. And we lost 100 pieces of apparatus, fire trucks, fire ambulances, chief cars. So the kids in White Nose Middle Schools knew that New York City helped their part of their town years ago. So let's help New York City. So what did these middle school kids do? In 3 months, they raised over $500,000.
Wow.
Car washes, bake sales, whatever they did. And they came up to my firehouse in December of 2001 with a big check and to help us pay for one of our fire trucks in my battalion.
That's really cool.
And, during December of 2001, my head was spinning, obviously. Like I said, going to funerals. I think the busiest day of funerals, I went to 6 funerals in one day on Staten Island. I mean, from one to the other to the other. 8 o'clock at night was my last funeral. Thank God it was in my parish, so I was 5 minutes from home. But I mean, just the emotional up and downs that you have going to these funerals or memorials, because a lot of times in the Catholic religion, you can't bury an empty coffin. So we had memorials because we didn't find their bodies. But 8 years later, 6, 7 years later, I should say, these kids that now graduate in high school now become the battalion commander of my battalion, and the adults reached out to me and they said, these kids graduate in high school, they want to come up and see the fire truck now. And they were all members of the band. So we put a trip together with 80 high school kids to come up to New York City to see the fire truck that they helped pay for. We got them on Good Morning America. They played in Carnegie Hall, and they played God Bless America at Ground Zero. So to me, that was more important than giving us the $500,000, because, things calmed down and you could really see the goodness of America. So, those 2 stories with the Tennessee firefighters and the middle school kids, that keeps me going.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's amazing. Now, correct me if I'm wrong. I believe the FDNY, they used to, maybe they still have a rig, the Spirit of Louisiana. Wasn't that donated at some point during 9/11? And I think it traveled all over the country, going to different... It came here to Long Beach during after Hurricane Sandy. It was an FDNY rig that was donated to us, and I think the whole concept started after 9/11. And I know it had something to do with donations being made, and I know that rig. I don't recall what FDNY number it was, the unit number, but it was an engine, and I know it went all around the country helping out different departments as a way for, I think, the FDNY to give back to other departments who helped them during our time of need on 9/11. So yeah, so much good came out of 9/11. Which is amazing. But I want to touch upon something real quick. What a lot of people don't know, especially we have a lot of younger viewers, a lot of kids who are wanting to become first responders. You had mentioned that you, instead of doing funerals, you had to do memorial services because you can't bury an empty casket. We released a video a few months ago on social media that talked about this in particular, and it went viral, millions and millions of views, because a lot of people don't realize that when the towers came down, with such force and tenacity that there was unfortunately no more human remains. And the very small amount of human remains that they found, you really couldn't collect any DNA from. It was essentially dust. So at the 9/11 museum, the memorial, there is a small little door that is only accessible to the Office of the Chief Medical Examiner for New York City and the families that lost a loved one on 9/11. And inside of that door in the museum are essentially a row of lockers, which is probably the best way to describe it. And in those lockers are the remains or the ashes of their loved ones, and they've never been identified. So most people who lost a loved one on 9/11 actually was never able to officially identify their loved one as being deceased because they never collected any DNA. Just wanted to make our viewers aware that that's the type of destruction we're talking about, is that out of the 2,000 plus people that died at the Trade Center, very, very few were actually identified that day. And even till this day, we just don't have the technology. We may never have the technology to identify the DNA that we currently have, which is.
So that brings me to another good story that I want to share. When you speak about, the body parts that we found and a beautiful memory, and I think we did it so respectfully. When we found the body part or a body, all the work would stop at the scene, and thousands of people were working at the scene, right? Construction workers, that they did a tremendous job for us. The iron workers cutting down the box beams, unbelievable work they did. Anything we wanted them to move, they got it done. Just amazing. The police officers, the firefighters, the EMS workers, everything would stop. We'd find that body part or body, we'd wrap it in the American flag, put it into a stretcher, and then all the police officers and firefighters would line up, stand at attention, and salute as the body or body part was being taken out of the site to the medical examiner so it could be ID'd for later on. Just a wonderful, in my opinion, a wonderful thing we did to bring that family some closure, some dignity. And if it was a police officer or a firefighter, we would call that unit and have them respond to the scene so they could carry out their brother themselves, which was tremendous to the firehouses, that I'm talking about, because, they brought home their brother. And I have to tell you that DNA technology is getting better and better every year. So they are, I think just recently, maybe a year or two ago, they just ID'd somebody's body or somebody's body part. And that's a tough thing because I know a lot of widows. I still take one of my widows down to the site every year on 9/11. Her husband was one of our lieutenants. He got killed on 9/11. Never recovered any part of him, so he's buried there, and that's his final resting place. So she still wants to go. So I tell Naomi, as long as I'm able, I'll take you down as long as you want to go down on 9/11. But sometimes these families get overwhelmed. What's happening is numerous parts of them are being found at different times or ID'd at different times. So they're getting phone calls. We found that. And so a good thing the city did was say, you don't have to take any more phone calls. Just sign this, and we won't call you anymore, which is nice because it reopens the wounds for the family.
For sure.
You know?
Yeah, for sure. I also want to mention too, and I say this a lot, for those of you who are not from the New York City area, just when you do come to New York City to visit the memorial, and please do, we want you to, just keep in mind that it's not a tourist attraction, although it is, but just go there respectfully all the time. You know, being that I work there, I work right down the block. I'm always passing by and I see, you know, tourists, and I know they're not meaning to do it, but I see the kids in particular. They're running around, they're jumping on the rocks, they're swinging from the trees. I've seen people even climb up and over the marble to try to get into the actual the waterfalls. Yeah, we had an EDP last year jumped up and over and broke his legs, but that's besides the point. Just keep in mind that it's not just a museum or a memorial; it's a gravesite.
It's a sacred place.
It's a sacred place. So again, if you come, please, we want you there. We want you to learn about what happened that day, but just try to keep your children, you know, at bay and keep them respectful as much as possible. With that being said, let's talk about Tunnel Towers. Sure. Again, before the cameras came on, we were talking about this, how there are people even here in the city of New York and the state of New York who don't know what the organization is, which is unfathomable to me because all I've known as a first responder is Tunnel Towers. The forefront in helping first responders, keeping the memories alive of all those who we've lost on 9/11 and continue to lose from 9/11 to illnesses and cancers. So let's tell our users, or listeners and followers, how did Tunnel to Towers get established? What exactly is Tunnel to Towers, and what do they do today to continue the legacy?
So our foundation started because of what Stephen Siller did that morning of 9/11. Stephen was an off-duty New York City firefighter. He actually worked the night tour of 9/10. He was going home that beautiful morning of 9/11, that Tuesday morning. That was a beautiful day, not a cloud in the sky, a beautiful blue sky. And Stephen had a golf date with his three brothers in our hometown of Staten Island, New York. And he was almost on the golf course when he heard the first plane into the tower. So Stephen turned his truck right around, called his wife Sally and said, "Sally, tell my brothers I'll catch up with them later. I gotta go." He responded to his firehouse with his truck. He was a member of Squad Company Number 1, which is an elite rescue unit in the New York City Fire Department. Squad Company Number 1 was already on the scene of the World Trade Center attack. So Stephen went into his firehouse, got all his gear, threw his gear into the back of his truck, and drove his truck to the Brooklyn Battery Tunnel, which is a tunnel that connects Manhattan to Brooklyn. All the bridges and tunnels were closed that morning for security reasons. So Stephen left his truck right on the highway, put 60 pounds of firefighting gear on his back, and ran through the Brooklyn Battery Tunnel, which is 1.7 miles long, just the tunnel itself. Ran through the tunnel, up West Street, and Stephen joined in the rescue effort that morning into the South Tower, was never seen again, and no part of Stephen was ever found or ID'd. Stephen was only 34 years old, married to a beautiful wife, Sally, and the father of 5 small kids himself. Stephen was a miracle that he was born. He was born 14 years after his closest sibling, which was Frank Siller. So his parents were quite old when Stephen was born. Stephen was the baby of 7. He had 3 brothers and 3 sisters. So when Stephen died, not only did they lose a brother, they felt like they lost a son because they raised him when his parents died. Stephen's mom died when he was 10. His dad died when he was 8. So he was orphaned at 10 years old. So his 3 brothers and his 3 sisters raised him all those years. So they felt the loss. And like I said before, what the Siller family did to take something so terrible and make something so good. And so they started this foundation to honor and to remember those 2,977 Americans that were killed that morning, so that we would never forget what happened to us and that we would do good. And that's been our motto for the last almost 24 years now, to do good. And we simply take care of the people that take care of us. Our military men and women that volunteer to go into harm's way to keep us free and safe. Our first responders, our police officers, our firefighters, our EMS workers that day in and day out keep their communities safe. And we take care of our Gold Star families, those families that lost their husbands, their wives, their brothers, their sisters, their sons and daughters that have made the supreme sacrifice for our country, laying down their life, protecting and defending our freedoms. And to these true American heroes, our foundation makes them one promise, that when they kiss their families goodbye, and God forbid they do not come home, or they come home catastrophically injured, the Tunnel to Towers Foundation will be there to either pay off their mortgages for their family or build them a smart home so that they can live an independent life with their catastrophic injuries. And this is what we've been doing almost since day one. Our role, our program has just expanded. In 2022, January of 2022, we started our newest, most expensive program to eradicate homelessness amongst our veteran population. In 2022, about 40,000 homeless veterans in this country. And to me, that's a shame, that's a disgrace. But our foundation is doing something about it. We're renovating hotels all around this great country.
There's actually one right down the block from where we are today, right here in Island Park. They took an abandoned hotel that's been there for probably almost 20 years.
20 years, abandoned.
Yeah, and I think just a few months ago, Tunnel to Towers and Frank Siller said that they purchased the property. They're going to be renovating it, and I'm not sure how many veterans they're going to be able to house, but I think quite a few, and it's going to be amazing.
Yeah, so most of the hotels we're going to do, they have 3 floors, maybe 4, but we look for 3, because on the first floor, we're going to put in all the supportive services that they need, right where they're living. Mental health counseling, drug addiction counseling, alcohol abuse counseling. Whatever these guys need, they're going to get. Job training, job placement. They're going to be living on the 2nd and 3rd floor. We're renovating those hotel rooms into apartment efficiencies. They're going to have a sitting area, a sleeping area, and a kitchen area. So if they're having a problem during the day, during the night, they can go right downstairs and talk to somebody. A counselor's on duty 24 hours a day, 7 days a week.
That's amazing.
Yeah. So our goal is to get them to become productive members of society once again, like they were before. And then they go off to war, they fight our battles for us so that we can be free and safe. And they come home broken. We have to fix them, and we have to make them better. And that's what our foundation is doing. And that's what our foundation's been doing for almost 24 years now.
It's fantastic, and I think so many people don't realize how much work that you guys do. All the programs that Tunnel to Towers funds, all the concerts that you guys put on for free for first responders. You just hosted one with Post Malone a few weeks ago, which I know was a huge hit. And thanks to you guys gave us tickets, and we sent a bunch of line of duty families from the NYPD to go see the concert, which was amazing. And I think the most well-known event that you guys host every year, obviously, is the 5K run here in New York City. And I know that has now expanded to other runs and tower climbs throughout the entire country. Do you happen to know how many events that is, or sure. What are we talking?
So our run started out with 1,500 runners the first year, 2002. I was a runner back then before my knee went bad, and I lost 20 of my men. So I was in on the run from day one. Where I was a fireman, those guys got wiped out. Where I was a lieutenant, those guys got wiped out. So, this foundation is near and dear to my heart. So I ran the first run with 1,500 runners, and just awe-inspiring. Just you come through the tunnel, you see pictures of all the guys we lost. I tell people nowadays, and last year we had 40,000 people participate in our run. Wow. 40,000. It's just tremendous. It's the most inspirational, motivational, emotional thing I do every year. And I do a lot of stuff. I fly all over the country on behalf of the foundation. And it's really life-changing. You do this walk once in your life, and you'll never forget it. You'll never forget. Because we have 2,500 West Point cadets, 2,500 West Point cadets running through the tunnel. And the chance of USA in a tunnel, you get the goosebumps the whole way through. It's just, like I said, it's life-changing. And your question, how many runs we have? I'm going down to Charlotte to do a stair climb in, is it the Bank of America Stadium on Sunday, this Sunday coming up? We have 80 stair climbs or runs all over the country because people love our story. They want to help us. They want to raise money. And these stair climbs and runs make $100,000 for us. We have 160 golf outings all over the country. Then we have celebrity golf outings. It's just amazing. Good people, again, goodness of America. People want to help our first responders. They want to help our military men and women. And they're coming together and raising money for us. All these events raise money. The concerts, they raise money. It's just amazing to see good Americans doing good things.
I've had the honor of being able to participate in the run about 7 times so far. And you know, it's tough being an active NYPD cop. Not every year I have the day off, or so a lot of us have to work it to provide security. But I've done it a lot, and the greatest one I've done was I was just about to graduate the academy, and I got to run as a recruit in the NYPD academy with over 100 of my other academy recruits, and we running through that tunnel. And I remember seeing members of New York City Department of Corrections SOD in full like riot gear, and they passed us, and I was like, wow, that's pretty fucking impressive. And then I saw the NYPD bomb squad in their full bomb squad attire, which, like guys in the military wearing the same thing. I can't even imagine how much weight that was. Firefighters running in full gear with their air packs, running through the tunnel, the cadets, the Marines running through and their cadences, and and then I saw the military veterans who were, some of them were in wheelchairs, some of them were running or walking, who were missing limbs. And the crowd went nuts. Like the tunnel, it almost felt like an earthquake. There was so much roaring.
It erupts.
And like it was like the ground was shaking, and it was unbelievable. And I was like, man, this is like everyone should, especially if you're a first responder or a military member, should experience this at least once in their lifetime. And I say the same thing with Police Week down in DC every year, National Police Week, which is coming up in May. If you're a police officer, you need to experience that at least once in your life. It's an experience that it humbles you really quickly, and it drives home that feeling that like we're all together, we're all Americans. Doesn't matter the color of your skin, your nationality, your race, your sex, your religion. Like we're Americans, and they always say like, I wish we can go back to September 12th, 2001, just because the amount of camaraderie, the amount of love and compassion and appreciation we all had for each other. Unfortunately, nowadays that's out the window. It's gone.
Well, I think just a couple of things. I think that'll, God forbid we ever have another attack or some catastrophic event, that would come back, because we are Americans, and we have to remember that, and we all do come together when times are tough. And people are spoiled because they don't have nothing to sacrifice for, and they need to be inspired. And Stephen's story inspires us. It inspires me still for 24 years. And that's what we're missing in this country, inspiration. You talk about World War II, what those young men did on D-Day, coming off those landing craft into the water, on Omaha Beach, and almost certain death. And they kept coming and overwhelmed the German forces. That's inspirational, and that's what we need. And that's what this run does. This run inspires people, and to see the goodness of America come out, and that we are one people, and we are a great nation. We have our faults. We do some things wrong, but we do a lot of things right. And this run inspires, and that's why I said it's life-changing. And because I'm on the board of directors, one of my greatest honors is to escort one of our catastrophically injured service men through the tunnel. I've been taking Ezekiel Rodriguez through the tunnel now for 3-4 years. He's a smart home recipient. He's going to get his smart home soon. And he's in a wheelchair, and he's a big bull of a guy, and I'm always right behind him. I said, Zeke, you need a little help? And once in a while, because the Battery Tunnel is 1.7 miles long, the first part is downhill because it's going under the river. Guess what? The second part is uphill. So that uphill part, Jack, just give me a push, and I push him through. So that's a great honor for me to be able to do that for one of our guys that sacrifice. You see them, they come home. You talk about PTSD before the other podcast. I mean, the physical injuries you see, the mental injuries you don't see.
Yeah. The first year I ever did the run, I remember thinking to myself, this is the longest tunnel in the world. Like it's so cramped. Like you said, about 40,000 plus people running through that tunnel, and you're going uphill, and it's so hot, and you're like, get me out of this fucking tunnel. And then you remember, if Stephen did it in full gear, running in between cars and other people that were trying to walk and get out, like it's an inspiration. And then you come out of that tunnel, and you see all the West Point cadets and the bands and the cheerleaders. I think one year was the Dallas Cowboy cheerleaders there one year. They might have been. I remember seeing this, like, these professional cheerleaders. They were in blue and white. I think maybe just in my mind, I just assumed they were the Dallas Cowboys.
They might have been Knicks if they're blue and blue. Yeah.
Oh, no, maybe, yeah. I don't know. Maybe as a 19-year-old kid, I just wanted it to be the Dallas Cowboy cheerleaders. But I remember coming out of the tunnel and hearing all the live music and the crowd cheering, and it was like, wow. Like, this is why you do it.
Like I said, inspirational and life-changing. And then we have the pictures of everybody we lost.
Yeah.
You know, and 7,000 military men and women gave up their lives since 9/11 for our freedom and our safety. And we have pictures of them. So you see, as you're running by, you see, you know, when I go by the firefighters, I see guys that broke me in on a job, my old bosses that died. I mean, you know, I got to stop, and I touched the cloth that their picture's on. It's just, you know.
Yeah. Another thing that you had mentioned that a lot of people don't realize is that Tunnel to Towers pays for the mortgages on a lot of the first responders that are killed in the line of duty every year. Not just firemen, but police officers as well. Especially here in the New York area, obviously we lose a lot. And I know most recently they've helped pay off, I think it was Stephanie Diller. They helped pay off her mortgage. And I think you guys helped with Lou and Ramos when they were assassinated back in 2014. For the Adiz Fayez. And then there was a few more others. It's almost like every time we lose somebody, especially here in the NYPD, Tunnel to Tower steps up and helps out.
So, you know, our foundation didn't start out doing all this good all at once, right? We progressed like most things happen. And 2009, Brendan Morocco was the first surviving quadruple amputee to survive. He lost both arms and both legs in Iraq. Fellow Staten Islander. So what did Frank Siller did? Galvanized the Staten Island community. We raised $800,000 and built our first smart home on Staten Island for a quadruple amputee. Little did we know, when we went down to Walter Reed to visit him, there was 3 other quadruple amputees. So that started our smart home program. To date, we're over 220 smart homes all over the country. And we're going to do 60 smart homes this year. Just this year alone, 60 smart homes.
So what's the operating budget for something like this? I mean, it's
a smart home on average now costs about $1 million. It used to be $500,000, but with the cost of land now, real estate values going through the roof, steel, concrete, wood, lumber, everything's through the roof now, especially the last 4 years with the inflation. So probably $1 million at least for each home, and we let them. They pick out where they want to live. We don't tell them you got to live here. We're not sending them all into North Dakota where the real estate is very cheap.
Right.
You know, if they want to live on the East Coast or the West Coast, that's where they're going to live. Well, you mentioned Lou and Ramos, our fallen first responder program, where we pay off mortgages for cops, firemen, and EMS workers that die in the line of duty, was started because of Lou and Ramos. In December of 2014, I was still working on Hurricane Sandy relief because I retired in 2012. I got hurt, I had to retire. September of 12, I retired. October of 12, Hurricane Sandy hit our shores, as you know, being in Long Beach. And the Siller Foundation raised $12 million for Hurricane Sandy relief. And I just retired, so Frank Siller put me in charge of spending that $12 million. I'm working in the office, and 2014, Frank comes running out. They just assassinated 2 New York City cops right in their patrol car, right outside the subway station. And it was Lou and Ramos, and Giuliani was part of our board, and he went on and did a commercial, not a PSA, and said, we want to pay off these mortgages. I think it was December 9th they got shot. And we want to pay off their 2 mortgages by the Christmas time. And the good people in New York, we raised millions of dollars and paid off their mortgages. And that began our fallen first responder program. So in 2014, we started paying off police officers and firefighters. And now if they get hurt, catastrophically injured in the line of duty, we'll also build them a smart home so that they can live an independent life with their catastrophic injuries. So it's not just for military. So our smart home program covers both cases. We're also paying off mortgages for military men that die from burn pits, men and women, I should say.
I think one of the homes that you're building is actually for one of our former honorees, Dash Veve.
Oh, Dash, I did his homecoming. Well, we renovated his home, right? Was it Long Island? Yeah. Yeah. Dash, yeah. How's he doing?
He's doing well. So we, about 2 years ago, we hosted Dash and his family, as well as 4 other law enforcement officers who've been seriously injured, catastrophically injured in the line of duty, here in Long Beach. Right. And we got all of them, including Dash, on surfboards. Wow. Out in the Atlantic Ocean surfing. Now, how did Dash do it? A little different, but we work with the Scoot and Surf Foundation. They're professional surfers here in Long Beach, born and raised, and they have surf schools all across the area, especially here and in Puerto Rico. And they have an amazing team, and they have equipment that is designed specifically for those individuals who've been seriously injured
very paralyzed,
or born paraplegics, etc. And they have another organization through Scootin called Surf for All. And they got them out on the surfboard. Dash was very well protected with a bunch of professional surfers and lifeguards.
Did he smile? I could see his smile.
He was a little panicked, I'll be honest. But we got him out there, and we got him out on his first wave, and he took it in. And his wife was running up and down the beach, screaming, bawling her eyes out, "My husband's surfing, my husband's surfing." And it was awesome. It was so cool to watch that happen. And he's another inspiration, right? I mean, he's been through so much, and a terrible incident. But he
was dragged by a car, right?
Yeah, he was dragged by a car in Brooklyn, and he suffered a traumatic brain injury. And I'll be honest, I don't think he'll ever be able to recover from it. He can't really talk, and he can't really move at all. But he's still here with us. And he and his family and his wife show up to a lot of the events that the NYPD hosts, and he's.
Yeah, I met the wife too. Yeah, it was a great family.
Yeah, family. They're great. They're great. But yeah, there's a lot of crossover with a lot of families that Tunnel to Towers has worked with, and a lot of families that we with Law Enforcement Officers Weekend host each year as well. So we have a lot of similarities in common, and. Like I said, Tunnel to Towers, they're just a huge inspiration to not just our nonprofit, but to nonprofits across the entire country. It's really just great work that you guys do. Amazing work. Do you know how many families that you've been able to help since the inaugural year?
I think it's over 1,500 mortgages we paid off already. And then, like I said, about 220 smart homes. We're doing 60 this year. Over 10,000 veterans we've either housed or gave supportive service to already in 3 years, which that's pretty amazing. Yeah. So I mean, Frank Siller, he's like the Energizer Bunny. He never stops, and I see him. I'm amazed at his strength and his vision for this foundation and what he's brought it to, and the whole Siller family. Just amazing. It's just I pinch myself because. When you leave the fire service or the police service or military, you do lose your identity. And I always thought myself as a fireman. That's what I wanted to be when I was 3 years old. I got to live my dream to become a New York City firefighter, and I did it for 32 years. And unfortunately, I got hurt and had to retire before. I wasn't even thinking about retiring. I was 54 when I retired. So definitely doing 10 more years. I was, and I was the king of my battalion, right? A battalion commander, great captains under me, great lieutenants, great firemen, just a wonderful life I'm living. And then you get thrown a curveball. So what's your next? What happens next, right? You can't just do nothing. You have to do something because people in our line of work, military, first responders. We're action people, we're giving people. We got to be involved. So being part of this foundation, really, so Hurricane Sandy, like I told you before, happened a month later. And I was lost. I was depressed. I was lost. Asked my wife, we were like, oof, it was a terrible time. And Hurricane Sandy was probably the best thing that happened for me. Terrible for everybody else. Right. Me personally, it gave me another purpose. And because of what Frank was able to do with the foundation, raising that money and raising all the millions we're raising now to help all these true American heroes. I'm so happy to be part of it.
Yeah, it's unbelievable work, and just thank you on behalf of. I'm sure you get this all the time, but on behalf of all the families that you guys have helped, I'm certainly not their spokesman, but I know that they are so grateful, and we see it in our organization that we will never know what they're truly feeling or going through, but the assistance that we're able to provide to them, that you and the Tunnels and Towers organization are able to provide to them, is more to them than we will ever know. So on behalf of all of them, on behalf of other organizations who look up to you guys, just thank you guys for all the unbelievable work that you guys do, continue to do, you'll do in the future, and for your work that you've done or did during 9/11. It's you're a hero is really what it is.
We did our job.
You did your job. I know, but every once in a while you got to be told that you're a hero.
We have a saying. We had posters put up in a firehouse after 9/11, and it said, "Still the greatest job in the world."
Yeah.
Still the greatest job in the world.
Yeah. Followed by the NYPD.
Yes. You have the second best. I always tell my friends that are cops, second best job.
There's a lot of cops who would probably disagree and say it's definitely not, but it's especially in today's day and age, it's a very tough job to have being a police officer, but we don't realize how well we have it here in the New York area, especially as cops, because you go other places outside of the metropolitan area in the Northeast, it's a very different. I don't know politically how to put this, but they're not well treated, we'll say. Not from the communities, but from their own leadership, from their FOPs or PBAs and the backings that they don't have. We're very, very lucky here in the New York area. The camaraderie's gone. Yeah. That thin blue line that you hear so much about, the thin red line that you hear so much about, you go outside this area, it's almost non-existent. And they'll tell you that. They'll say it's really it's a Northeast thing, and maybe California, does it pretty well. Texas, a little bit here and there, but like Middle America, not so much. Yeah.
So I travel all over the country, and I see it when people have an event. I say, where's the fire department? Like, when we do our run, our chief of department was out there cooking hamburgers on a Sunday, on his day off. He's the chief of department, and he's flipping burgers for us, because he knows what it is to volunteer and help out. So I go to other places, I'm saying, well, how come there's not 100 firemen out here volunteering to help? This is what we do. This is what's in us. Like, our service is ingrained in our personalities to go out and help people. And it's not about the money. It's not, you become a cop or a fireman for the money, right? I went to college, I got a degree in accounting because in the 70s, New York City was going bankrupt. And my father said, you got to, you can't just rely on being a fireman. They were laying off firemen when I wanted to be a fireman. So, thank God that, 6 months after college, I got onto the fire department. But you still, you took it for the idea of helping and being of service to people, right? And that's what we do it for. And especially with the police department nowadays, with all the crap you have to deal with, the civilians and the leadership, right? The politicians defund the cops, and it's just it's a tougher job than our job for sure.
Yeah, it is. But we both have very tough jobs, and I know for the most part, 95% of our communities are very thankful that we're always there for them the minute they pick up the phone and ask for us to be there. So yeah, with that being said, Jack, thank you for coming on the show. We truly appreciate it, showing or telling us your experiences, and just giving some more light to the Tunnels and Towers Foundation. For those who want to help out Tunnels and Towers, if they want to volunteer, if they want to donate, how do they do that? Yeah,
so donations are very easily done, and just so you know, 93 cents of your dollar, you give us $1, 93 cents of that dollar is going to our programs. So we are very efficient with your money, and if you would like to donate, we ask all Americans to donate $11. Go to t2t.org, letter T, number 2, letter T.org, and you can hit the donate button, and it's as simple as that. So thank you very much, Austin. My pleasure to be here.
Thank you very much, Jack, and thank you for supplying this hat, which, by the way, I'm going to show it off to the viewers real quick. This is actually a pretty iconic hat. I've seen this. I know Frank wears this all the time.
All the time.
I've seen a lot of other first responders wear it. So this is the Tunnels to Towers hat, the military camo. FDNY, NYPD, PAPD, all who've lost significant amount of members on 9/11. And then we have all 6 branches of the military, including the Space Force and the Coast Guard. And never forget on the back. And then, of course, the challenge coins, which are always so collectible for the first responder community. The Tunnel to Towers challenge coin and the 20-year anniversary of the Tunnel to Towers challenge coin. So thank you for these. These will go on our rack as well. So,
Great.
Jack, thanks again for being here. Truly appreciate it.
Thanks, Austin. My pleasure.